Hello, welcome back to another episode of Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers. I'm Elizabeth Nelson, again here with Kay Johnson. What you reading, Kay?
Oh my, plenty of good things. Right now I am reading the Circe Connection. I believe that's how it's pronounced. But it's number 13 in the Dr. Genevieve Leonard series.
Okay.
And it's by Estelle Ryan. And each book is named after a artist.
Okay.
And so Circe was Elisabetta Circe was an Italian Baroque painter and printmaker who died at age 27.
Okay.
And she lived and worked during the 17th century. So the book starts out with Dr. Genevieve Leonard is on the autistic spectrum. And so everything's very literal for her. And she ends up through all these books to be part of a government like SWAT team that's police and computer intelligence and all these different things. But she is an expert in nonverbal communication. Okay. World expert.
Okay.
And so she's part of the team, and she's always in on the interviews and interrogations and all this kinds of stuff. See if people are lying or not. So they're tracking a Iranian drug dealer right now who finances himself through selling drugs and Iranian artifacts. Okay. And this painting by this woman was stolen 3 years ago and has now shown up in Budapest. Okay. Or no, Prague is where it is. Okay. And so the team's now in Prague tracing this painting and trying to figure it all out. And so it's lots of cloak and dagger. And I like the fact that it has continuing characters. And it's interesting because the author's done a tremendous amount of background in autism. Okay. And so it's really interesting how she will shut down. And in order to be able to function in certain situations, she runs Mozart music through her head that she writes on. She literally will pull up a sheet of music in her head and will write all the music out. Yeah. Or she'll black out for like 2 days. No, 24 hours. And stuff. So it's an interesting book, and I'm about a third of the way through it. Okay. And I'm just happy because, and her books usually are really cheap, like $5.99.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's an investment I'm willing to make.
Okay, good.
But her books are really good, and the first one is great, and each one is good, but the first one is really great.
Okay. Do you remember the title of the first one?
I think it's Gauguin, but I'm not totally sure. I'd have to look.
Okay.
It's always the Gauguin connection, the Rembrandt connection, the da-da-da connection.
But there aren't like secrets hidden in these paintings that you have to follow?
There's one.
Okay.
There's one that there is.
I was going to say, are we going Da Vinci Code here and you have to crack
yeah,
codes?
they're better than the Da Vinci Code, I think. She's a better writer than Dan Brown.
I read one, I think it was called Botticelli's Secret, and it's this lady goes and models for him, and then he's not going to pay her, and so she walks out with a copy of one of his paintings, and it turns out there are secrets hidden in the painting, and so then people are trying to kill her.
Of course.
While she runs around with this painting.
Of course. There's a book, and is it by, I can't think. It's got repeating characters, but each story is different. Okay. And it's got a painting in it that they follow, and it's been changed from the original or something. Okay. But that's because there's clues in it, and it takes them. But I can't think of the name of it. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, maybe next time you'll remember.
Maybe next time. That's right. So what are you reading?
I just finished Madeline Miller's book, Circe.
Okay.
And so this is sort of a different version of playing into well-known Greek mythology stories.
Okay.
So Circe is the demigod daughter of Helios, who's the sun. So her father is the sun.
Is that like Zeus and?
Yes, except he's a Titan. So he's the people that came before.
Oh, before the Greeks.
Yeah, before the Olympians showed up, or however. Other people will know better than me. But she, so she's obviously lives forever, and she falls in love with a human and goes out to find these flowers to put a spell on him. And when she does this, she, for whatever reason, however she did this witchcraft is what they refer to it as in the book, she's exiled to an island, just like Calypso is, I think, the other one. There's another one, too, that's stuck on an island. Circe's the one that's stuck on an island and turns everybody into pigs and kills them.
Okay.
That's how I remembered who she was eventually. It's a long story. Don't make me explain it. But anyway, so she's stuck on this island, and so her being here, characters from different stories will come to her. So she's there, and then Jason and Medea come up, and she interacts with them, and then it's how later on she finds out what happened to them, you know. So like when they come to her, they've just left her home, Medea's home, and have the golden fleece.
Okay.
And then they're heading back but they're all like, oh, we're married, it's going to be fine. And you're like, yeah, but you're going to go home, and then he's going to leave you, and you're going to kill your kids. Yeah. We all know how this Greek myth ends.
Not well.
Yeah, and then guy from the Odyssey. What's his name?
Oh, Hercules.
No, not Hercules. No, the guy, it's going to bug me. He's a really big part of this book. That's why I got to remember his name. He was at Troy. He's the one that planned the Trojan horse. Odysseus. I knew it would come to me if I just kept rambling on. Odysseus shows up and stays, and then she interacts with the different gods that are there. And so it's just kind of, you see all the stories you're familiar with kind of playing through her eyes and how everything goes. That way. So it was a really interesting retelling. This is another one of those that had shown up a lot in the reading Facebook groups I'm on, and I was like, well, maybe I'll check it out. And so I listened to the audiobook version, and it was really good, really interesting, and I really enjoyed it, and I'd recommend it. So
that's good.
12 hours on the audiobook. It was perfect.
I never listened to audiobooks, and I
listened to quite a few. I also listened to War of the Worlds.
Oh, like as in the TV, the radio?
Except it was the actual book version by H.G. Wells.
Oh, is that as good as the radio program?
Well, the way it was recorded was different because every chapter he would be like, at the beginning, the guy would be like, War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, Book 1, Chapter 1. And then at the end he would say, this is the end of Chapter 1. And it was like, oh my gosh, I have 10 hours of this left. But every single chapter, that's how it would stop. And so that I would tell you, listen to the Orson Welles version. Don't read the book version. I mean, I was like, well, now I can say I've read it. It's one of those, I'm trying to read more classic ones. So it was like, well, now I can check off this classic again. And I'll be fine. But I would listen to the radio drama.
Have you listened to the radio drama?
I've read the scripts to a couple versions of it. And I mean, it's one of those that, you know, everybody kind of knows about the radio production that Orson Welles originally did, the hysteria it supposedly caused with people thinking it was real. And so that's kind of why I was interested to read the book that it was based on. But then every time I was listening to the book play on audio, and I was thinking about, I don't know how it wound up in our house, but somebody had a DVD of like an independent film version or like PBS version of War of the Worlds, and it was one of those things where all you ever saw, I swear, were people running back and forth through the woods, and I swear it would be like the same shot, but they would put like a blue color over it to mean like afternoon, or like they would put it darker for it to be, but it's the same guy walking the same direction, doing the same exact movements over and over again. All he's doing is running back and forth between where the alien is, back to his house, and I was like, I can't listen to this because I've got too many other things going through my mind. And then because I think at one point Wishbone, you remember that TV show, Wishbone, with the dog that would fill in for the book characters?
Oh, yeah.
He did one of those. So then my brain's going, well, Wishbone did this. And I was like, just go watch him. I'd rather watch the dog dressed up as
Yeah, that would be
person.
better. Yeah, well, it's nothing worse than it when it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, we were talking to Tom about Wishbone and how, you know, that was a good way to introduce to a lot of kids different classics that I'm sure some of them never read. Because I can remember watching, and he was Odysseus. Because I remember thinking, how are they going to make a dog pull an arrow out of bow and arrow back? But somehow they did. He was Sherlock Holmes. He was Raoul from Phantom of the Opera.
Okay.
So he was all these different.
He made the rounds.
He was. I'm not going to entertain you by singing the theme song, though, even though I'm sure I still know it. And he was a really cute dog, too. I mean, it
worked.
Yeah, it did work.
Sometimes it does.
Sometimes. Occasionally it does. But yeah, speaking of dogs, that can segue into my next book. I read a memoir called A Marriage in Dog Years. And so the book sort of starts out with this woman's dog is sick and they think he's going to die. And it sort of follows the last couple of years of this dog's life, and his decline sort of follows the decline of her marriage.
Of course. What a cheery book.
Yeah, so the book started with them getting the dog, and you can kind of figure out how the
dog dies, marriage dies.
Yeah. But I mean, it was well written. It was just one of those things where I was like, I don't need to read about a dog dying. I need to go find my dog now. But it was one of the every month Kindle has those early read release books
that you can choose
yeah.
one.
And this was one of those that had come out. So it was on. I was looking for something to read, and I was waiting for books to come to me from being on hold, and I was like, well, I'll just read this one because it's been sitting on my Kindle, and I was like, I don't like when books just sit there and don't get read.
No, read me.
If I see like my Kindle has like so many pages of books, I start to be like, oh, this is a lot of books. This is too many pages.
I have 1,200 on mine.
Oh gosh, that doesn't surprise me.
And a lot of those I've read, but a lot of them I haven't.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty much the person that as soon as I read something, I send it into the cloud or wherever it lives.
Well, I need to do that. I just kind of just stack them up and...
No, I send them off right away. Yep, just like as soon as I finish a book, it goes right on the bookshelf. Then I can track my to-be-read pile from everything on the bookshelf has been read. Though I have found a couple things that were on the bookshelf that hadn't been read. Okay. So those I've added to the now growing to-be-read pile, which then the cat knocks over and we have to restack them again, which is always fun.
Well, it keeps you busy, though.
It does. What else have you been reading?
Let's see, what else have I read? Oh, I read my first Nora Roberts book. I'm probably like the only person in America who has not read Nora Roberts.
Possibly.
And so
Alex,
I found
Alex hasn't read Nora Roberts, but Alex can't read yet, so.
He's only two. It was called Chasing Fire.
Okay.
And it was about fire jumpers, people who jump out of planes and fight forest fires.
Okay.
I think they're called fire jumpers, but they might be something else. I forget. But, of course, this is one where it's about a woman who's a fire jumper.
Okay.
And she doesn't date anyone she works with because that leads to trouble. But, of course, a young rookie comes in, of course, who's strapping and strong and good looking and all of the above. And rich, too.
Oh, and rich.
Yeah, and rich. Of course, no one would want a poor, strapping, good looking boy.
No.
Got to be rich.
Yeah.
And, of course, he's going to wear her down. And meanwhile, simultaneously, her father finds someone to date, too, an aggressive principal of a private school who asks him out. But once you get over those two things, someone is sabotaging the equipment. So they leap into a fire, and all of a sudden, all the screws are stripped on their equipment, and things are happening, and so it's a mystery within the romance.
Okay.
And I actually have to say it was pretty good, and it made me think, well, gosh, I'd probably read another one. Mm-hmm. And she has lots of continuing ones with this, but not this one, of course. My
favorite Nora Roberts book, I think, was one of the first ones I read, and it's called Homeport.
Okay.
And it's about a woman. I think she's either a historian or curator at a museum or something like that. And there's a statue that comes in, and people start getting killed over it. And she meets up with a thief. I think he's a thief, and they're trying to figure out what's going on without getting killed. Okay. And I remember it's the only one that like really stands out in my mind as being one that I would read again.
What was it called?
Homeport.
Homeport.
Yes.
Okay, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, it was really good.
She has lots of them, and I had no idea she was J.D. Robb.
Yeah, actually, on the back of the books that are J.D. Robb, like in the she's kind of tongue-in-cheek about the fact that she writes that way. So it'll be like, J.D. Robb shares a husband and kids with Nora Roberts.
And then you go, oh, okay.
They live in the same house. They drive the same car. And it's like, oh, that's kind of funny, actually.
Well, I just think she's got to be writing as many books as James Patterson. I mean, they have to be the most prolific writers in America.
The one thing that can be kind of hard with Nora Roberts is a lot of her books are now being re-released with new covers on them.
Yes,
so I know, like, my mom would be like, oh, I think this is a new one. And she'd pick it up and then be like, oh, no, I've read this one.
So you don't know, you have to...
So you have to, like, actually... Sometimes with me, I've had to pick them up and look through them in the store. Like, I'll open up to just a random part and read a little bit to see if it jogs any memories. I've had to do that with a couple just because, they're books and then either they get a movie cover or they re-release them, which I had happen with one of the Emily Griffin books. So then I had 2 copies of it because the cover looked completely different. And the back didn't really, neither of the backs had like a little blurb about it. A lot of books I've noticed have started doing, instead of having the info on the back, they now have reviews by other authors.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people that are annoyed about that. They're like, I don't care if the New York Times liked this book. I just want to know what it's about.
That really is annoying. When I pick up a book, I want to be able to read that little synopsis to see if it grabs me or not.
Yeah, that's one of the things now with my Goodreads app. If I can't find it on the book, I'll just pull my phone out in the store and type in the title and try to read through it that way. But I mean, so many people are annoyed about this. They're like, I really don't care what other people thought about it. I'm going to make my own opinion about it, but I'd like to know what I'm going to read.
Well, for some reason, they think if James Patterson liked it, dear God, I'll love it too. Thank God James Patterson says yes. Yeah,
no.
I am surprised, but the thing is that you can't trust that either, because it's sort of like Stephen King. Well, I'll approve yours if you approve mine. Yeah. And so it's
because I mean, like with this one, I mean, it's the whole back side, and it's praise for every single other book in the series.
Yeah. So
and it's like, well, I'm on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 8th book in this series. I think the other 7 were good if I'm still reading it.
Yeah.
I don't need to know what everybody thought of the other books.
So this is what it looks like when you see the reviews.
Yeah, so it's just, fans will be delighted with this gorgeous edition, or thrilling read. And it's, thank you, Publishers Weekly. Thrilling read. I couldn't figure that out on my own.
Thank God. And Publishers Weekly, thank God.
So it's kind of like Huffington Post, book list. It's like if I wanted to kind of know what these different places say, I could just go to their website and look it up.
Yeah, I agree.
But at least with hardcovers, you can then open it and they'll have it on the flaps. But if you pick up a paperback,
they don't have it.
They just don't have it.
I find myself often going to Amazon and reading the synopsis to see if it's interesting, and then I'll go with it. But it is frustrating. I agree. That's prime real estate. Who cares what Publisher Weekly thinks?
Not us, obviously.
Not us. But we want to know the facts.
I know, we do. Well, speaking of facts, this book has a lot of facts in it.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. So this is the Sawbones Book, The Horrifying, Hilarious Road to Modern Medicine. So this book is written by a couple that do a podcast, which is called Sawbones. And the wife is a general practitioner, so she's a doctor, and her husband is a comedian. And so every week on their podcast, they discuss a topic. And like their very first episode they ever did was on trepanning. Yes.
The straight poop.
Yes, there's a whole thing on poop. It's great. But so she picks a topic and she'll explain it all to you, kind of what it all is, and then he interjects these things he thinks
comments
as they talk about it. So like they did one on trepanning. They've done episodes on vaccines. They've done all kinds of, they've done them on like fad diets. So like they've done one on the keto diet. They did one on Tom Brady's whatever book he came out, the Brady Method or whatever. And so they talk about all the issues with everything. But they do it in a way that's entertaining and most of the time lighthearted. And it's just funny because she gets so annoyed with him.
Well, yeah, because she's like Fox.
Yeah, so in the book, you
Just
know,
the facts.
she'll be reading, and then there'll be like a blurb inserted where it'll be like, well, this is what I actually thought we were talking about, but Sydney told me I couldn't put that in here. So, but it's just kind of funny, and you can tell that they have a fun time doing it, and it's that husband and wife dynamic where he'll say something thinking, oh, I'm funny, and she's just like, I'm so sick of this. I've heard this joke 12 times today. And the book reads just like the podcast.
Okay.
Or just like listening to the podcast.
So
is just how
have
the
they
book
done
is.
other books?
This is their first book with this. The Justin McElroy, who's the husband of the couple, he's in a whole bunch of podcasts. He has like a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. He does podcasts with his brothers. And they all have podcasts with their wives, so they're like just a big podcasting family. They do another one with his dad. It's just kind of funny, but this one's really enjoyable to kind of listen to.
Do they do it every week or every month?
Yep, it comes out I want to say it's Thursday for some reason, but I'm not 100% on that because I listen to a lot of podcasts and they all come out all during the week. So, but this one I really enjoyed. It's just kind of a
So did you get the book because of the podcast?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep, I listened to the podcast for a while, and they were like, we wrote a book. And then I got a gift card from Barnes & Noble for Christmas, and I was like, I don't know what I want to order. And then I was listening to the podcast, and again, they said, we have a book. And I was like, I'm going to order the book.
And it was worth it?
Yeah, it's enjoyable. I liked it. I think it's one of those things, if you listen to the podcast, you'll enjoy the book just as much. So it's kind of to maybe a little bit more specific of an audience, but
okay.
I'm that audience, so I enjoyed it.
Well, it looks interesting. Then.
Yeah, it's just kind of fun, and
well, I haven't read any of those kinds of books.
well, you can take it home with you if you want.
I might have to. I might have to.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything you're looking forward to reading?
Well, I'm finished. Well, with that book I pulled out when I was using it for the example, I'm reading this one. It's called Kingdom of Ash, final book in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. So I'm working my way through it while not wanting to finish it, but knowing I need to finish it. But I love the characters, so I don't want. So I kind of go back and forth. I'll pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. But I know I need to finish it.
It's a library book, right?
It's a library book. And then the other one I have at home is called The Mortal Word, and it's by Genevieve Cogman, and it's the latest book in the Invisible Library series.
Okay.
So when I've talked about those books in the past, it follows a lady who, her title is librarian. She works for this Invisible Library, which is an organization that travels to parallel universes, rescuing books that could destroy the world that they're found in, and then keeping them
safe
in their library. So in this book, it's going to sound, I'm going to show you how much of a nerd I am when I explain this book to you. The fairies and the dragons are having a peace conference for a treaty that the library is overseeing, and one of the dragons is murdered. So she is brought in with her friend, who is very much like Sherlock Holmes, to solve who did it and save the peace talks. Yeah. That's kind of the basis of the whole series.
Is it good?
It's very good. They're very easy reads. They're just enjoyable. You can't help but fall in love with Irene is her name. Her dragon sidekick is Kai, and then I don't remember the name of the Sherlock Holmes like character, but he's in it. And then it's all the different people that also are involved in the library, and they're just enjoyable reads. They're not long books, so they go really quickly, and yeah, I enjoy them. But it was just when I was thinking about explaining this, I was like, I'm going to be talking about fairies, dragons, a mysterious library. I'm more of a nerd than I thought. And we all knew Elizabeth was a big nerd at this point if you've been watching the show since the beginning. I have a lot of these moments where I embrace my inner nerd.
That's right. Well, on the other hand, I'm reading, or going to read next, once I finish this, the Serrani Connection, I'm going to read The Big Rich by Brian Burrow. Okay. And he wrote Barbarians at the Gate. He's I think he wrote for the the Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
He does money.
Okay.
And this one is about the rise and fall of Texas's great oil fortunes. 4 families.
Okay.
And then the other one I want to read is called Daughters of the Lake by Wendy Webb, and she is a Minnesota author.
Okay.
And I think this has a great premise. After the end of her marriage, Kate Granger has retreated to her parents' home on Lake Superior to pull herself together, only to discover the body of a murdered woman washed into the shallows. Tucked in the folds of the woman's curiously vintage gown is an infant as cold and at peace as she is. No one can identify the woman except Kate. She has seen her before in her dreams.
Dun dun dun.
I know, it's like, some kind of music should we play? So that one was Connie Lambert recommended too. She said, get this on your list.
Yeah.
So how
I
about
know.
you? Anything else?
I think that's everything I've got for this episode. So yeah, I think that if you have anything for us, you can find us on Facebook or Instagram, or send us an email at offtheshelfbooktalk@gmail.com, and we'll see you next time.